If you're thinking about starting a new business, then this video is for you because today I'm going to guide you through 20 questions that you need to ask yourself before you dive in and start your new business or side hustle. G'day there, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess Van Den and I have been fully self-employed running my own businesses since 2010, so over a decade. Today I want to address a number of really important questions that a lot of people don't think to ask themselves before they start their business. I know a lot of people, especially in my industry, handmade business, just kind of accidentally stumble into starting their businesses. Certainly that's what happened to me. And so you often end up figuring this stuff out as you go along. So if you are thinking about starting a business or side hustle, especially in the new year, as you watch this, well, as I record this, it's November 2021. So a lot of people might be thinking about doing something fresh in the new year, or whenever you're watching this. I just want to bring your attention to some of these things because if you don't think about them now, you may come up against a whole bunch of roadblocks later on in your business development because you haven't had the chance to actually decide these things before you started, and you may end up realizing, as the old saying goes, you've got your ladder up against the wrong wall and you're climbing the wrong wall that's not going to take you to where you actually want to get to with this business, or what's behind this business, why you actually want to do it. So we're going to address that in today's video. Now, even if you're not new to business, this is still going to be useful to you because no matter how long you've been in business, these questions are relevant. A thing to know about business, if you don't already have one, is that there's no such thing as getting it right and finished and done. Business is always evolving and developing. So a lot of these questions are things you actually want to come back to over and over again and just reassess on a regular basis if your business is still fulfilling these things, these questions, and if it's still going in the right direction for you. All right, let's get started. Number one, and I think this is a question a lot of people never think to ask themselves. This business that I want, is it going to result in the sort of lifestyle I actually want to live? I think a lot of people get it around the wrong way. They think about the business they want rather than the life they want. I think it's actually important to start by thinking about the life and the lifestyle that you want to live, and then look at the business you want to start and go, does this fit with that lifestyle? Like if you want a lot of spare time, you're not going to want to start an internet startup, for example. If you don't want to work weekends, you don't want to start a cafe or a restaurant. If you like sleeping in, you don't want to start a gym, not especially if you have to be the person who opens it in the morning. And if you don't like face-to-face interaction, you don't want to start a business where you are going to be constantly dealing with the public. So you first of all have to start with, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my day-to-day lifestyle to be? And then, does this business that I want actually support the life and the lifestyle that I want to live? Or is it in some way oppositional to that lifestyle and I just haven't seen that yet? So really take that step back. Look into the future, think 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future. What do you want your life to look like? And hey, maybe you're willing to make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. I mean, this is what most people who have a traditional job do. They work their job till they're, 60, 65, and then they get to retire and enjoy the rest of their life without work. Personally, that is not the life I want for myself. I don't really ever foresee myself retiring per se, but that's because I've developed a lifestyle and a business model that means that I don't feel like I'm spending my whole life working. And even when I am working, I enjoy my work. So it's something that fills my days and gives my life some sort of structure and meaning, not just something that brings money in the door. So this is a really important question, and I really strongly encourage you to think about this before you think about the rest. Number 2, will I still be interested in this thing in 5 years' time, or 10 years' time, or 15 years' time? Like, again, looking forward into the future, what sort of time frame are you envisaging for this business? How long are you planning on doing it? How long are you planning on running it? Is it going to be for the rest of your life? Is it just something you want to do for 5 years, or 10 years, or 1 year? And in that time, are you going to still be interested in it? Are you still going to want to be putting the work in to develop this business 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line? Or is it something that you've just suddenly become interested in and that's going to fizzle out? Now, this is a question definitely aimed at myself. I'm one of those people who gets really obsessed with something for a short period of time and then it kind of wanes. But then I tend to go in cycles where I then get obsessed with it again in the future. So I've got to personally for me, it works to have a couple of things going on because then I can jump my focus from thing to thing, and that means I never get bored because I'm not just working on the one thing. So think about that part of your personality as well. The amount of work it takes to actually start and grow a successful business is a lot, and you need to be willing to put the time, effort, and focus into that business for a long period of time. So this thing that you're thinking about doing, is it something you're going to want to do for the long term? Number 3, is this business going to be profitable in the short term, long term, or both? Now, obviously, if the answer is neither, then this is not a business you want to start. But look at the industry that you're thinking of entering. Are people making a profit at the beginning of their journey? Does it take them a couple of years? I think the standard, that I've heard of business statistics in general is it takes 5 years to start turning a profit. That's a long time. I know in my business, I think my jewellery business specifically, it took me probably 2 or 3 years. Oh, I'd say I started turning a profit in the first few years, but that's not a profit so much as making income from it. I think it took a long time to be turning a proper profit from it. Now, my other business, Create and Thrive, that started turning a profit right away, but that's because it was an information-based business, not a service-based business rather than a product-based business. And it's easier to scale a service-based business when you're selling digital products because you can sell heaps for the same amount of work, basically. So think about the type of business you're starting. When is it likely to be turning a profit? Some businesses, it takes time to build them up and then they'll turn a profit into infinity. Other businesses, you can start making money straight away. It just depends on the industry. So just be clear and clear-eyed about this, and don't go in with a blindfold on thinking that magically somehow you're going to be different to everybody else in this industry and you're going to suddenly make heaps of money right at the beginning, even though that's not what normally happens. It's important to go into business being very realistic about what's going to happen to the financial side of things. Number 4, is there actually another way you could be making the money you need more easily? So some of us, we start passion businesses. We don't really think about the money side of things at the beginning. We're just doing it because somebody's told us it's a good idea, or we think, hey, maybe I can sell some of this stuff. And that's fine, absolutely. But if you actually really need the money, is there another way that you could be doing that? Getting a part-time job, working freelance for somebody? There are lots of different ways you can be bringing that income in. And that doesn't mean you can't start the business, but you have to be realistic and think, okay, I can still do this, but it's going to take me a couple of years to start profiting from this business. What am I going to do in the meantime to bring money in the door? So this is why I'm a big fan of keeping the job. If you have a job, a secure job, and you want to start your business, start it on the side. Don't be one of those people who just quits everything and dives into the business, because it takes time to develop a business. It's not something you can just do overnight. Now, some people who have a lot of experience, who've run multiple businesses before, will probably find this much, much easier. And I don't know why you're watching this video, because you know what you're doing. But for newbies, just be realistic and realize it's going to take time. So don't throw the job away just yet. Do this on the side. Do the development, do the learning, do the planning, get the business started. Yes, it's going to mean a lot of extra hours and a lot of extra work, and you'll probably be tired for a little while, but that's way better than quitting your job without a plan and realizing you don't have enough money to pay the mortgage or the rent or put food on the table. You know what I'm saying? Number 5, speaking of experience, do you have the necessary knowledge and experience to actually run this business that you want to run? Or are you just, inspired by somebody else, or you've seen somebody else do it and you think, oh, well, how hard can it be? How hard can it be? Yes, I certainly said that to myself in the beginning because I had no idea how hard it could be. All right, so do you have the requisite knowledge and experience? If not, get it before you throw the job in or whatever else you're doing in. Spend some time to educate yourself, learn the things you need to learn to successfully get this business off the ground. Spend the time. It will be well worth it. Number 6, are you being realistic about the amount of time and money it is going to take to get this business off the ground? A lot of my students, I've worked with thousands of makers, so people who want to turn their hobbies into a profitable business. And the thing I hear from them over and over again is, I didn't realize how much time I would be spending not making things, right? Because they get into this because they like making things. Now, when you start a business, say a handmade business, you're going to find that like you end up with something like 80% of your time in the first year or two devoted to the business side of things rather than the making side of things, because you have to learn everything there is to learn. You have to set everything up for the first time, get it all running, figure it all out, get the admin up. You have to do the marketing, you have to do the emails, you have to do all of that stuff, the taxes, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to take you a lot more time than you probably think if you've never done this sort of thing before. So talk to some people in your industry, people who've been through that startup phase, get some realistic answers about how much time it's taken them and how much time it's going to take you to get this thing off the ground. And that brings me to number 7, which is find some people in your industry who are willing to be open and honest about what it really takes to succeed in your industry, how much money, how much time, what sort of knowledge, what sort of support and help, what's the market like, all that sort of stuff, and actually talk to them and get a realistic picture of what this is going to be like before you start. It's like doing work experience as a kid in high school. You want to be a vet. Okay, let's go to and work in a vet clinic for a week. I tell you what, at the end of that week, you're going to get a real good idea as to whether you actually want to be a vet or not, because you've been put into the actual experience. And this is where, like, if you can do some work for some of these people, like maybe you can intern with them, or you can do some work for them, something that gets you on the inside so you can see what it's really like to work in that industry is really, really useful. All right, just had to adjust the brightness on my camera because the sun decided to come out. It's probably going to go away again, but we'll see what happens. Okay, number 8. Will this fit with my current family/life situation? This kind of goes back to that first question about the life and lifestyle you want to live, but it's a bit more specific, thinking about your family situation. Like, are you the breadwinner? Do you have jobs that you can't pass on to somebody else in your family? Do you have other people that rely on your support, whether it's financial or time or emotional support? So do you have the right environment around you to start this business successfully? Or are you going to find that there's going to be trouble because people won't understand what you're doing, they won't be supportive perhaps, you won't end up having as much time as you thought you were going to have because you've got all these other responsibilities on you? Are you living in the wrong place? Are you living somewhere that doesn't allow you to do this particular type of work? I mean, that's pretty unusual these days, especially for those of us who are doing an online business. But, if you're living in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have a good internet connection, then maybe it is the wrong place. So you have to look at that and just say, okay, will it fit my current life family situation, or is there something that's going to be an obstacle or a roadblock to this? Number 9 is, where can you get trustworthy support and advice from your peers and colleagues? So I think we underestimate how important it is to have a peer network of people who are kind of just about where we are, maybe a little bit ahead, maybe a little bit behind, but in the same boat, basically, who understand what we're doing. I've heard from so many people over the years that, their family are supportive, but they don't really understand what they're trying to do. And so they can't really help them with problems that arise. So the only thing they can do is turn to other people in their situation. So for me, like in the handmade industry, that's turning to other makers who are trying to do the same thing as them and getting that help and support. So if I hadn't had this when I started out, I would not be where I am today. I was a member of an amazing Australian Etsy team, and the women in that team gave me so much support and so much help and answered so many questions about stuff I didn't know. And I would have been lost without them. So find that network of people. That's why I started my membership community, the Thriver Circle, for makers and artists and creatives. If that's you, it might be a community you want to check out because it's a private community with people who are serious about doing what you want to do. And you also get heaps of other perks. Anyway, you can check that out at thrivercircle.com. But whatever industry you're in, find that network of people and connect with them because they are going to be absolutely priceless. Now, that being said, there is a caveat on this. I really recommend that you try to either make personal connections, so one-on-one connections with people, or you do join some sort of smaller community or group. What I see a lot of people doing is actually just going to these massive open like Facebook groups or forums or Reddit or something like that and asking questions there. And yes, that can work, but it also, people don't know who you are. They don't understand your business. And there's often a lot of drama in those spaces and people who have their own prejudices or agendas or problems that have arisen. And that's human nature, I know, but it can be a little bit difficult and overwhelming, and you won't necessarily get the sort of advice you're looking for because people they're not looking out for your best interest potentially, So just be wary of where you go to get advice and who you listen to. But having that small peer network of people, wherever you find it, I think is really, really valuable. Okay, number 10, ask yourself, why do I want to do this, i.e. start a business, rather than just getting a job? Like, what's my motivation behind actually doing a thing for myself, running a business myself, or just going out and getting a regular job? Because they are not the same thing. When you have a job, someone else is responsible for all the things. They're responsible for paying you for starters. They're responsible for collecting your taxes for you. They're responsible for telling you what to do. They're responsible for marketing the business if it's a business you're working for. They're responsible for the administration angle of things. So just be realistic again about when you start a business, you have to put on all the hats. You have to do all of the jobs that if you had just went and got a job, you would just have your very specific small job. So just be self-aware about this thing, and that not everybody is entrepreneurial. Not everybody is naturally inclined to be a business person. You have to be very self-motivated, intrinsically motivated in order to be a successful business person. You can't be motivated by external directions. If you're not good at motivating yourself to do stuff, then business is going to be very difficult for you because nobody's going to be telling you what to do. It's all up to you. So just keep that in mind when it comes to making that decision as to whether running a business is the right thing for you or not. All right, number 11, what are the business structure, framework, taxes, legalities of setting up this business you want to set up in your country? Don't just hand wave this, do the research to figure this out before you start and make sure that you start things properly, because it's going to be incredibly stressful if you start stuff up and then down the line you realize you've been breaking the law or doing the wrong thing, or you get to tax time and go, oh my God, how much money did I spend? How much money did I make? All of this sort of stuff. Just do the research to figure out what's the best way to set up your business. Do you want to, here in Australia, we've got sole traders, partnerships, companies, trusts, all sorts of things. So this might be worth, just for this first time, going to see an accountant or a business advisor and actually lay out your idea and see what they say. See what they say is the best idea for you, the best structure, and they can educate you as well on the business framework and the tax and stuff like that. I have had an accountant since I started my businesses. I've gone through a couple. I've got a really good one now. They're not just accountants, they're like business advisors as well. So it's an expense, but frankly, a good accountant can often save you more money than they cost, and they also give you peace of mind because you know that you're doing everything right and you're not going to get in trouble and end up with a massive tax bill 5 years down the line because you weren't doing it right. And that's not something anybody wants to deal with, right? Really get this straight from the beginning and it will take a load off your shoulders. Okay, number 12, what are your financial goals? What are your financial goals in the short term and the long term? We talked about earlier, is this idea going to be profitable? Is it likely to be profitable? Now we're talking actual numbers. I want you to actually put some numbers on this. What are your financial goals? What are you wanting to earn? What are you needing to earn out of this business in the short and long term? So the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, etc. Is this, do you plan on this being your full-time thing to support you and your family? What, do you have a mortgage that you're responsible for? Do you have car payments? Do you have rent, medical insurance, especially for those of you in America where your medical insurance is linked to your job? Not such an issue here in Australia, obviously, but think about all those things. How much money do you need from this business at X amount of time in the future to actually survive and thrive? You have to write these numbers down. You can't just guesstimate this. You need to do the work. Look at all your expenses in your life. Look at the expenses that your business is going to incur as well. Don't forget about that when you're doing these calculations, and see if it is realistic that you are going to be making this money. 13, speaking of making concrete goals, do you have a business plan? Do you have a plan? A concrete written down plan for what this business is about, who you're selling to, what your financial goals are, what your timeline is, all of that sort of stuff. Now, this can seem super overwhelming and super boring. It doesn't have to be. It can be quite simple. I'm doing a workshop on this in the Thriver Circle for makers and creatives. And if you want some guidance, I'm teaching you how to do a short, simple business plan. It's super easy, super straightforward, gets the basic stuff onto paper where it needs to be. Like if you're just self-funding this is not a step you might necessarily take, but if you have to get any sort of financing, you're going to have a business plan, because nobody's going to give you any money unless you have a solid case for how you're going to make it back and pay them back, right? So short, simple business plan. If you're interested in that workshop, I'll put the link in the description below. It is a live workshop, so if you're watching this just after it's come out, you might be able to get in and join me for the live workshop. If you're watching this in the future and you're still interested, no worries. I record all the workshops. They're always available in the library inside the Thriver Circle, so you could go do it right now. If it's December 2021 or after, it's going to be available for you in the circle right now. So whether you do that or not, I want you to put together a business plan. You can just Google it. Like, how do I create a business plan? How do I create a simple business plan? I'm not talking about a tome that's this thick that you see like mega corporations put together. You're not that complicated. At least I'm guessing you and your business is not that complicated. You just have to get some fundamentals written down so that you know what you're aiming for in the future. Because like anything in life, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. Number 14, if you're starting a passion-based business, i.e. you've got a passion, something you love, and you want to turn that into a business, ask yourself this: do I really want to take this thing I love doing and turn it into something that makes me money? Because I can tell you right now, that process will fundamentally alter your relationship with this thing you love. It's no longer just about you doing something because you like doing it. You have to start thinking about, I've got customers now, I've got a target market, I've got financial goals, and that is going to change your relationship to this thing you love to do. That's not to say you're not going to keep loving it. It's not to say that's going to be awesome because you get to do the thing you love and make money from it. I'm in that boat. It's great. Don't get me wrong. There are, however, days where I really am over it. There are days where I sit down to make jewellery and I'm like, oh God, I have to make this again. But then I flip my script and I go, no, I get the opportunity to do this. The question I always ask myself when this comes up is, if I wasn't doing this, what would I have to be doing to make a living? That always wakes me up super quick smart. So that being said, just be aware that happens. Just be aware that there is this shift that happens when you take your passion or your hobby or the thing you love and turn it into something that other people now have an input into, your customers. You will get positive and negative feedback about it. You will, feel differently about it over time in the future, and that's fine, but it does happen. So, I've worked with a number of people who have gone through all this work. They've made the decision to start a business. They've done all the groundwork. Some of them have started up, and then 6 months, a year down the track, they've gone, you know what? I don't want this to be a business anymore. I want to go back to it being something I do for the love of it. And just be realistic about the fact that that's a potential thing that may happen, and just really investigate whether that's something you're willing to risk. Okay, number 15, speaking of, who are your ideal customers? Who is your target market? Who are the people who want to buy this thing that you are wanting to sell? You have to figure this out at the beginning. Otherwise, you don't know how to market it. You don't know where to go or who you're talking to, and you're just like throwing stuff, willy-nilly out there, and you won't have an effective marketing plan because you don't know who the heck you're talking to and who it is that wants to buy your stuff. It may take a bit of development at the beginning, some research and development to figure this out, and that's okay. You have to go through that period, but just be aware that you should be looking at this and you should be thinking about this from the beginning and trying to figure this out as early as possible, because it will make life a lot easier when it comes to finding your customers and selling to them. Number 16 is along the same lines, and that is, what is it that's different about what I want to put out there? What's my unique selling proposition, or USP as we say? What makes you different from all the 11 billion other people doing what you're doing? Why will people choose to work with you and buy your thing rather than these other people? Now, having competition is not a bad thing. I mean, think about how many restaurants and cafes there are in the world, right? If somebody who wanted to start a new cafe or restaurant was like, but there's 5 other restaurants in town, I'm never going to get any business. It's, that's silly, right? Of course, if you do something different, you do something unique that people want, you will get business. It goes for any sort of business that's out there, okay? You need to think about how you can stand out, how you can be that little bit different in order to appeal to that very specific target customer base that will absolutely fall in love with what you do and who you are. What is it about your product that is unique and different? And if you have no idea, start looking at, you can just start in general, looking at business and analyzing businesses and the marketing and the words and the phrases they use. You'll quickly see that they will use keywords and phrases that they have determined set them apart. They're not going to be just bland and generic. If they are, they're never going to succeed. They have to pull out something about their particular product that is unique, that is special, that will appeal to their target customer. Okay? So you have to do the same thing with your business. If you're selling beanies, what's different about your beanies to every other beanie out there? If you're selling jewellery like I do, what's unique and special about your jewellery? What is it that you specialize in? What is it that makes you stand apart? What is it that your ideal customers will absolutely love about your work? You have to figure out what that is, because then you are going to communicate that, and the people who want that thing are then going to find you and come to you and buy from you. Number 17. This relates to, I think it was number 8 earlier about family and life situation, but it's a little bit more specific. It is, do I have the explicit support of my close family or friends? You're going to find things a lot easier if you have the explicit support of the people in your life. That's not to say that you shouldn't start this thing if you don't have that support. I know people who have done that, but it's really, really hard. It's really hard to start something when the people you love or the people who you're closest to don't support you and don't think that you can make it and make it happen. It takes a special sort of person with a lot of self-belief in themselves to actually make that happen without the support of a few close people around them. I mean, I would not be where I am today without the support of my husband. He was and is absolutely crucial to the success of my business. I mean, for the first year and two or a couple of years actually of my businesses, I was able to work on the business full time because he was doing all the house spouse stuff, right? And he did that so that I could focus on the business. So even to this day, we balance those two spheres, business and life, and we both work in both of those spheres. He still does more of the life stuff, the house stuff, and I still do more of the business stuff. Like, if I'm like the manager of the business stuff and he's the manager of the house stuff, and then we sort of each assign each other jobs in those two spheres. But whatever, it works for us. It's awesome. We both have plenty of free time. We both feel like we're getting the better end of the deal, and he's incredibly supportive of my business dreams and goals and ideas, and it works. So it's going to be a lot easier if you have that support of the close family and friends. And, make sure they understand what you're trying to do. Explain it to them. This is where having like business plans and financial goals is really useful. If somebody's a little bit skeptical, it shows that you've done the work and the research and that there is a realistic possibility of success here. So I hope that you can find those people and that they will be able to help you. Just be aware that it will be a little bit harder if you don't have that support. Number 18, speaking of support, do you want to run this business yourself or do you want a business partner? It might be that you're really good at some parts of the business but really bad at others. We all have our strengths. Would it make more sense to combine forces with somebody else and actually run this business together? Business partnerships can be fraught, but they can also be incredibly fruitful and successful. I've been running a podcast. I've got 2 podcasts. The other one I do is called The Business of Making, and it's 3 of us together. We've been running that for a couple of years now, and we are a partnership, like a legal partnership, and we run the business together and we make all the business decisions together, and we have a way that we balance the workload between us, and it's been incredibly fulfilling and rewarding and really enjoyable. It's more of a passion project, so it hasn't been particularly financially successful, but that's not been the point for us. We just wanted to do it, and it's been super, super fun. So having a partnership can sometimes work really, really well. Just make sure if you do, have the legal documentation in place. Have a partnership agreement, have everything written down, like if one person wants to leave, what's going to happen to the business, what's going to happen to the money, all of that sort of stuff. Again, just Google, partnership agreements. That's what we did. We found some online and then we just altered them to fit our circumstances. So partnerships can be a great thing. Just make sure you set them up properly from the beginning to avoid any problems down the line. Number 19 is in a similar vein to this, and that is, do you want to be a solopreneur forever? Or do you actually want to create a business that will expand and that you hire employees and then potentially one day you could even sell? Okay, so think about the business structure. And this goes all the way back to the beginning where I talk about life and lifestyle. Now, me personally, I've always just wanted to be a solopreneur. I don't want employees. I don't want a premises. I don't want, to be making millions of dollars a year. Sure, it'd be nice if I could make millions of dollars a year without any extra work, but I'm not willing to do the extra work that it would take to make millions of dollars a year, right? I just don't care that much. I make enough money to be comfortable. So think about that. For us, obviously, like I said, Nick, technically he's my employee, but that's just a legal thing. Like we work together in the business because I'm a sole trader, we call it here in Australia. So the business name is my name is the business. We're kind of inextricably linked. If you're starting a business with a little bit of risk, you might want to start a company so you're a bit more insulated personally. So what do you want? Like what sort of business model do you want going to the future? The reason I don't ever want employees, or one of the reasons, is I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's livelihood. We often travel overseas for long periods of time and close the business down while we're traveling. So what would my employees do? I don't want that responsibility. So that's one reason why I don't want to employ other people. So that comes back to lifestyle and the life I want to live. So this is why knowing that's really important, and just have a vision for the future of where you want your business to go and what sort of structure it's going to have going forward. And finally, number 20, does this work reflect the kind of person I want to be going into the future? I'm not a religious or spiritual person, but I've studied a lot of religions and spiritualities over the years, and the Buddhists have this really awesome concept of right livelihood, which has always stuck with me. It's doing work that you feel is, or that is, contributing positively to the world in some way. And I've always wanted to make sure that the work I'm doing is right livelihood. It's work that I feel is a positive influence on the world, having a positive impact on the world and other people in some way, and minimizing any negative impact that my work has on the world. So for me, the work that I do definitely reflects the sort of person I want to be. The teaching that I do, I want to help other people be successful like I was, because my life is amazing, and I love my lifestyle and my life, and I love my businesses, and I want to give other people the tools and the knowledge to actually make that happen for themselves. So that's why I teach. And the jewelry business that I run, we use recycled silver wherever we can, so we're not contributing to more mining. The sort of jewelry we sell is meant to be kept for a lifetime. It's not throwaway costume jewelry. It's stuff that people hopefully will keep and treasure and wear forever. And we do a lot of wedding rings, so that for us, that's a meaningful piece of jewelry that really makes it, has an impact. Someone will literally wear that on their hand for the rest of their life potentially to represent the love they have for their partner. So think about that sort of stuff, this work that I want to do, this business I want to start, what impact is it going to have on me, and what impact is it going to have on the world? And is that the sort of legacy that I want to leave behind? That was a long one today. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear your feedback. Please let me know in the comments below if any of these questions resonated with you or made you rethink what you might be planning on doing with your business, or if they've helped you to clarify something about your business. I would really love to hear from you, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you want more videos on this vein, I specialize in talking about how to have a thriving and profitable handmade business and also a happy and healthy work from home lifestyle. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and you won't miss any future videos from myself. Again, thanks for being here. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.